I am so excited to talk about coats with you today, so let's just get right to it. Hi, my name is Sarah, and welcome to my channel, which is all about sewing and styling a handmade wardrobe. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some winter coat trends. I will share some patterns that you can use to make those trends, and I will also be sharing handmade coats from my own collection that match those trends, and I'll give you a little update on how well those coats are wearing and how often I reach for them, just a little mini review as we go. This video was inspired by an article I was reading on who, what, where about winter coat trends, and I will link that article down in the description box below. And as I was reading that article, I was really struck by how many of the coat trends showed up in the winter release from the Big Four. So it inspired me to dig a little bit deeper and share some of those patterns with you along with some other ones in the indie community. So the first trend that is listed in the article is cape coats. Now I do think that this looks very chic and sophisticated, very like city dweller or very ladylike, but I do have to admit that it's not a trend that really works for my lifestyle. I really don't like capes. I don't like the idea of not having a defined sleeve because how do you hold your handbag? You basically have to hold it in your hand or on your wrist. There's no way that you can put it on your shoulder or wear it crossbody, and I would just find that incredibly annoying. So this trend is one that I'm going to pass on, but just in case it's something that you like or is practical for your lifestyle, let's go ahead and talk about some patterns. The first pattern is from the newest Vogue winter release, and it's Vogue 2074. Now, I really like the look of this coat. I think that it's fantastic. It's kind of the best of both worlds because you get the little cape, but it is also a coat. So if for some reason I ever did have the desire to make a cape coat, this one would be pretty high up on my list because I think it looks fantastic. It has a shorter version, and then it also has a longer version, and it looks like from the photo that they've made it in lighter weight fabrics, sort of like a trench coat type of fabric. And I do think that it is elegant and amazing. It's just not for me. This next one has been out for a while. It's Simplicity 8263. It comes in sizes extra small to extra large. It is more of your traditional cape. It has a lot of different options in terms of the different collars and closures and pockets you can put on it. So there is a lot of nice variety. So I think that if you are into capes and you want to make more than one, you could get a lot of versatility out of just this one pattern. And rounding out this category, we have the Style Arc Clover. It comes in sizes 4 to 30. It is more size inclusive than the other two, but this is one of their older patterns. I think when you purchase it, you have to buy a single size, and then the way that it works with Style Arc is you get your size that you order, and then you get the size above and the size below, but they're not nested. It's not one of their multi-size patterns. But I thought that this design matched that city chic look really well. It has kind of a double-breasted button closure. It has a collar, and it does have welt pockets, and it looks to be about hip length. And I stopped at these three, but there are actually quite a few cape patterns out there. So if you are someone who is looking for a cape, you're not going to be suffering for choice, that's for sure. The next coat trend listed in the article is chocolate brown. Now obviously chocolate brown is a color, it is not a style. But what I did was I went through the photos that were listed as examples under this trend, and then I found coats that were fairly similar to that in style that you could make. And obviously if you want to follow the trend, then you would make it in a chocolate brown. So this first coat, I really like the look of this. It's an H&M coat. It almost looks like it's made out of a raincoat fabric or maybe like a waxed cotton or something. And then it has a contrasting collar that's either like a suede or maybe corduroy. It has kind of that barn jacket feel, which I really like, but it's a long coat. It also has raglan sleeves and a hidden button placket. The pattern that I found for this one is the Assembly Line Car Coat. It comes in sizes extra small up to 3XL. It does have raglan sleeves and a collar. It's a little bit shorter than the H&M coat, but you could lengthen it. It has welt pockets, and it does have a single-breasted button closure in the front. But stylistically, I thought that it was very similar, and I do really like the idea of having that contrasting collar in a different texture, but the same color as the coat. I think that looks really pretty. The next coat in their example is of a drop shoulder, very oversized coat. It just has one single button. It has a notched closure, and it looks like there are flap welt pockets. This reminded me of a brand new pattern that just came out. It's the Closet Core Phoebe. It comes in sizes extra, extra small up to 4X. And the main thing that I thought was dead on was that it's super oversized. Now, I will be the first to admit that personally, I don't really like this coat. I just think it's too much in my opinion. But Closet Core patterns are very popular for a reason. and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to love it. In these kinds of videos, I do always try to include some patterns that are not necessarily my style, but might work for others. And this is one of those. This one does have a double-breasted closure, it has a notched collar, and it has some big patch pockets you can put on the front. And I do think it has a couple of different length options as well. This next coat in the brown section is a classic tie front coat or a robe coat. Those have been popular for a few years now. The pattern that I found I actually have in my own stash, but I haven't made it yet. It's Simplicity 8796. It comes in sizes 6 to 24. It is a similar length. It has the notched collar. It's very simple, very clean. And I do really like the look of this one, and I'd like to try the pattern at some point. Oh, it does look like there is a full tie belt. It's just that there's an option that you can kind of hide the belt a little bit, or you can wrap it all the way around. Now, as a bonus, I do want to share with you the brown coat that I have in my own collection. Last year, I made the Patterns Room Joan jacket. Now, I have to be honest with you, I cannot in good faith recommend this pattern. It is not a good pattern. I think at the time that I made it, I didn't even do a full review because there were just so many things that I would have felt like I was piling on the designer. And I'm not looking to interfere with somebody's livelihood. But suffice to say, I don't think that it's a good pattern, and I would not make it again. However, I was able to successfully get a nice coat in the end, and I do like this jacket, but I definitely made a mistake, and this was my own fault. This was not the fault of the pattern. I made a mistake with my fabric choice. So I had ordered these two fabrics from the same place. I got them from Fabric Mart. So I was just trying to get a coat fabric and a lining fabric that were in a similar color so that I could make a coat. What I didn't account for was that the outer fabric is a very, very thick, heavy wool coating fabric, but the inner lining fabric is a cupro, and it's way more appropriate for like a lightweight jacket or lining a skirt or pants or something. It's not really a coat lining. So the problem that I have with this coat is that it's really super thick and bulky on the outside, but the inside is so thin that it doesn't really keep you warm. So it's kind of in this weird in-between space of being a jacket and a coat. So for that reason, I don't wear it very much because it's so heavy. I can't wear another coat over it. So it's not like it's a jacket that I would wear inside. And also it's so bulky that I think it would be weird to wear it as a jacket inside, but it's not warm enough to be very practical for much of the year. I can wear it basically right around now and then maybe in the spring. It's not really a winter coat. So it was not my most successful coat make, but on the other hand, I do like the way that it looks, and I really do like the chocolate brown color. The next trend that was in the article is called the Philo Files. Basically, this designer, Phoebe Philo, came out with a coat on her runway that has a funnel neck. Phoebe Philo is kind of this rock star designer that used to be at Celine. She has a very big following, but in my opinion, she's not a very good person, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about her. The main point of the trend is that she designed this coat that has a high funnel neck, and so we're seeing that trend pop up everywhere. The first pattern that I found for this trend is Butterick 6385. It comes in sizes 6 to 22. It's a classic. It's been around for quite a while. View C is the one that has the funnel neck. I've thought about buying this pattern several times just because it is such a classic, but then again, I have so many other coats and coat patterns, I don't necessarily need this one. But I do really like the look of it. It has princess seams. It's a little bit on the fitted side. It's not super oversized. And I do like that it comes with several different color options. You could get different looks that way. The next pattern is the Waffle Patterns Yuzu. It comes in sizes 34 to 48. This one is a double-breasted funnel neck coat that has a curved hem and raglan sleeves. I just liked the look of this. I thought it was a little bit different from other coats that I've seen. It looks nice and cozy. It's a little bit oversized. And I do really like that the model is wearing it in a bright pop of color. I think that this particular style lends itself nicely to a pop of color, although obviously you could make it in whatever color or pattern that you choose. It does also look from the line drawing that if you don't like the curved hem at the bottom, there is also a squared off hem option. So keep that in mind if you don't like the look of the modeled photo. And then the last one in this category is a more casual option. I chose the Vicky So's Nurit. It comes in sizes extra small up to extra large. This one is a long puffer coat. The trend photo showed more dressy coats, but I always think it's nice to have a more casual option in case that works better for your lifestyle. I don't know that I would ever be interested in making myself a puffer coat, but it's interesting that there are patterns out there for that if you can find the right fabric. The next trend is one that I feel like I've talked about before. It's the tailored coat with a cinched in waist. It goes along with that like feminine workwear trend that's happening. And I found a decent number of patterns that matched this trend. So the first one is a new one from Nomi. It's 2103. It comes in sizes 8 to 26. Now in the modeled photos, it doesn't look like the waist is that cinched, but when I looked at the finished garment measurements, the waist is 10 inches smaller than the chest. So I would consider that to be a fairly cinched in waist. And of course, if you wanted it to be more fitted, you could take in those seam allowances a little bit more and make it a little bit more nipped in. I do like that this pattern comes with different length options, and it also looks like the shoulders are a little bit exaggerated as well, which is going to make that hourglass shape even more pronounced. The next pattern is Vogue 1990. It comes in sizes 8 to 26. I couldn't figure out if this one was from their latest collection, but at any rate, it's from a more recent collection of theirs. This one also comes in two different lengths. It's a little bit more formal looking. And the waist shaping on this one is done with darts in both the front and the back. It looks really beautiful and elegant, and I think it would make a really nice dressy coat. And the last pattern that I chose for this category is if you want to go whole hog. I picked the Charm Pattern's Princess Coat. It comes in sizes 2 to 20, and it also has cup sizes. This one has a very cinched in waist. It's almost like a dress, but it's as a coat. It has that vintage feel to it. If you were into that really romantic, really curvy look, this would be the one for you. And this pattern does come with a ton of different design options, so you can make the coat that suits you best. Now, as part of a bonus in my own collection earlier this year, I made Butterick 6862. It comes in sizes 8 to 24. Now, this sort of counts, I think, as a cinched waist coat. I made this coat, I made it in a size 14, which is several sizes larger than I actually am, because I wanted it to be a winter coat. I wasn't looking to make it as a blazer. On me, it's pretty oversized, and it's not necessarily really a nipped-in waist. However, I think that you could use this pattern to make that look. You just wouldn't size up as much as I did. And also, if I wanted to wear my own coat as a cinched in waist, what I would do is I would add a belt around the waist, and that would give that cinched look. Now, because I made this coat earlier this year, I haven't had an opportunity to wear it a ton of times yet, but I do really love it. This time around, I felt like I matched the fabric and the lining fabric perfectly. It is a nice heavy winter coat. It goes with a lot of different things in my closet, and it's totally different from any of my other coats that I own. I definitely see this one being one that I wear again and again into the future. I really, really like how this coat turned out. For our next trend, again, I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself from when I talked about fall trends, but the next trend is statement fur, which I feel like comes around every winter. There's really not a lot to say about it. It's a fur coat, and the ones that are pictured are pretty classic looking, so nothing too crazy. It's just kind of your standard classic fur coats. So the first pattern that I chose is another new one. It's Simplicity 3008. It comes in sizes 8 to 26. This is a classic lined fur coat. It's oversized, it has no closure, so it's easy to sew and fit. It has a shawl collar rather than a notched collar, and it does have pockets. It comes in two lengths. The next pattern is Grasser 633. It comes in sizes 38 to 56. This one is a long fur coat. It's lined with sew-on snaps. It has a notched collar and a back belt. This one unfortunately did not have line drawings. It is another really classic silhouette. It's just that compared to the first one, this one has a notched collar. Otherwise, it's very similar in style. And to pick something a little bit different, for the last pattern, I chose the Vicky Sews Abby. It comes in sizes 34 to 52. This one is a shorter bomber style hip length jacket. It has a zip up front, and it has a really exaggerated large collar. It looks like in the sample it's made out of more of like a Sherpa or a teddy fleece rather than a fur, but you could use whatever fabric works best for you. And then as a bonus, in my own collection, I have Simplicity 8797. This one comes in sizes extra small up to extra large. I made this one a couple of years ago out of a brown cotton-based fleece fabric that I purchased myself from Minerva. I really love this coat. It was very easy to sew, and it's nice and cozy to wear. It's generally the kind of coat that I would wear maybe once a week. It's not one that I'm reaching for every day, but I do wear it on a pretty regular basis throughout the winter. I really like the way that it looks. And so far, it's worn really well. At the end of the season last year, I did wash it for the first time, and it came out just fine in the wash. So I would highly recommend both the pattern and the fabric. It's just a really good basic coat that is a nice match for if you wanted to use fur. The next trend from Who What Wear is peacoats. Peacoats are back in style, although they're such a classic, are they ever really out of style? I found several patterns that worked for this trend. So the first one is Vogue 8940. It comes in sizes 34 to 46. This is meant to be a men's peacoat. It's very detailed. It's a lined double-breasted coat. It has welt pockets, and the pattern does actually come with pants also, so that's a nice bonus. The next pattern for this trend is a new release from Butterick. It's 7007. It comes in sizes 8 to 22. This one has a short hip length and also a long length. It's very oversized. It has raglan sleeves. It comes with welt pockets and cuffs, and it is fully lined. I really like the look of this coat, and I think that I might pick up the pattern at some point. I just really like the look of the short jacket, and the fact that it is so oversized means that it will layer well over thick sweaters and things. So this one is definitely on my short list of patterns that I might want to purchase this winter. For an indie option, we have the Maker's Atelier Peacoat. It comes in sizes 4 to 22. This one has some options. You can do it lined or unlined. It comes with welt pockets. It looks like there's a few different closure options, and it has a little back belt to cinch it in a little bit. Again, just a very classic shape. And I like that it has options for lined or unlined because not everybody lives in a climate where you need a lining. So if you wanted a more lightweight version, this would be a good option. Next up, we have another men's pattern. It's the Thread Theory Gold Stream Peacoat. This one comes in sizes extra small up to 2XL. It is another classic slim fit peacoat. This one has an option for a removable hood, and it is fully lined. And then for the bonus, I made the Sew Over It 1960s coat a couple of years ago. This pattern comes in sizes 6 to 30. I made my version out of a synthetic wool-like fabric, and so I was a little bit skeptical about it at first, but I will say that it is actually an extremely warm coat. I think I used a kashi lining, which is a flannel-backed satin, so it's nice and toasty. Even though it's a cropped jacket, it keeps me very warm. I do like that in all of the peacoat patterns, this one's a little bit more of a fitted option if that's something that you prefer, if you don't want it super oversized. And it does come with length options as well. If you don't like the cropped view, there is more of a midi length view. I'm pretty sure that the cropped view doesn't have pockets, but I actually added pockets into mine because I cannot have a coat that doesn't have pockets. It's not ideal because there's not a ton of space in the coat for a pocket, but I managed to make it work. There's a couple things about this coat that keep me from wearing it too much. And one of them is that the coat is so warm that sometimes I can get a little bit overheated in it. Like oftentimes I have to end up just wearing it open and not buttoned because if I'm outside for any length of time and it's not super cold, there's a tendency for me to overheat in it. The other downside of this coat is that because it's a synthetic fabric, it attracts pet hair like nobody's business. So I'm constantly having to lint brush it. That part's pretty annoying, I'm not gonna lie. So I do think it probably keeps me from wearing the coat as much as I would if it didn't do that. But overall, I really, really love this coat. I think that it's an excellent addition to my wardrobe, and I would recommend the pattern to others if you wanted to sew it for yourself. This next trend from Who What Wear I thought was kind of interesting and not something that we've seen for a little while. It's coats that have toggle closures. So the first pattern that I found for this is the Grain Studio Cascade duffel coat. It comes in sizes 0 to 18. It's a very classic standard duffel coat. It looks like it ends at around the low hip, but you could lengthen it if you wanted it to be more like the styled photos. I do like that this comes with an option for a collar or for a hood, and actually it comes in different length options as well. So there's a shorter version and then there's like a mid-thigh version. This next pattern is a unisex option. It's the Seamwork Albion coat. It comes in sizes 0 to 22. Now I actually own this pattern, but I've never made it. It's another classic duffel coat. It has a 3-piece hood, so it's nicely shaped to the head if you wear the hood. It's a really beautiful looking coat, and maybe someday I'll make it for myself. I had originally purchased the pattern to sew a coat for my husband. This was very, very early on in our relationship. And then eventually I realized that he doesn't wear wool coats. He either wears puffer coats or he wears hoodies, but he does not wear wool coats. So I'm actually really glad that I saved myself the trouble and I didn't bother making it for him because it would have just been a huge waste of time and money. And I probably would have been pretty upset. But I do think that the coat pattern itself is really beautiful and I like the way that the toggles look. So I might consider making it for myself someday. It's a nice casual option. This next one technically doesn't have toggle closures, but I think that you could easily add them. The pattern is New Look 6585. It comes in sizes extra small to extra large. This pattern has been around for a while, and I think it's been fairly popular. It has several different length options. It does have pockets. You can do it with a hood, or it has more of a shawl collar. It's an unlined coat with raglan sleeves, so it's going to be nice and easy to sew. And I think that if you wanted to add toggles, you would do it to the view with the hood. Or if you wanted to do the version with the fold over shawl collar, you could put the toggles a little bit lower, like around waist length. But I do think that adding toggles would be a really nice touch to this and make it look a little bit more elevated than this very, very casual coat, which is nice the way that it is, but I do think the toggles would bring it up a level. And for the bonus, I did make this jacket last year. It's the I Am Gaston. It comes in sizes 34 to 52. Now, I would consider this more of a jacket rather than a coat because for me, it's not heavy enough to wear it as a coat. However, I acknowledge that not everyone lives in the same kind of climate that I do. And so for some people, this might actually be completely adequate for you as a coat. This is another pattern that was not intended to have toggles, and I added them because I was inspired by a ready-to-wear jacket that I saw last year. This pattern is for a knit fabric like a fleece or a boiled wool. I used a teddy fleece that I got from Joann Fabrics, and these leather toggles I found on Amazon. If I can find them again, I'll link them down below. And I just wore this jacket the other day, and it's really nice. Like, it's super warm, it's cozy, but it's also not too thick. Like, if I had to in the wintertime, I could wear another coat over it. And I just really like the different textures and the colors, the way that they contrast with the fleece and the toggles. So I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and I do wear it a decent amount in the fall and winter. I don't wear it in the spring and summer because it would be way too hot. So that wraps up the winter coat trends for 2024. Let me know in the comments which trend was your favorite, or if any of these patterns have made it to your wish list. I always enjoy chatting with you down in the comments, and I will see you again in the next video.